Holy shit, we are back with AFL content. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bit of Footy YouTube channel for the 2025 AFL Premiership season. We're going to kick it off today by doing my 2025 AFL Ladder Predictions. So yeah, this will be a lot of fun. I feel like it's going to be a very unpredictable season. And just a reminder, these are just my opinions on what I think the ladder will look like. It's probably going to be totally wrong by the end of the season because, you know, every season is just unpredictable. We don't know where every team's going to finish. It's just impossible to get a fully accurate ladder prediction. But I'll try my best. I will try my best. But first, we're going to see how I did last season. The orange squares on this ladder from my, 2024 AFL ladder predictions are teams that I got one place incorrect, and the green square is obviously the team that I got correct. And I only say the team because I only got one team correct from my last season's ladder prediction, and that was Essendon. As you can see, I got three teams one spot off, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's pretty bad when you look at it. But yeah, hopefully this season I can do a little bit better. But like I said, every season is unpredictable. You don't know which teams are gonna blossom or which teams are gonna fall. You just have no idea. But yeah, I'm gonna do my best. So let's begin. These are my official 2025 AFL ladder predictions. And like last season, we're gonna go from 18th to first spot. All right, and we begin with 18th spot. In 18th, I've got the Richmond Tigers. I don't think this is a shock to anyone in the world. Richmond, they're rebuilding. They've got a ton of draft picks who are gonna, just be getting minutes into their legs, who are just gonna be growing into the AFL sphere. So yeah, I can't see Richmond finishing anywhere other than 18th. Will they struggle to win a game this season? Probably. There could be a game that they win here and there, but other than that, I've just got them in 18th spot. In 17th spot, I've got the West Coast Eagles. They picked up Liam Baker in the off season, who is a good signing for them. They've got a decent forward line: Waterman, Allen. They lost Darling to North Melbourne, but they've still got an exciting forward line. They've got Rioli in there as well. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they'll win, a few games, but I feel like they're going to struggle to win a lot of games this season. So therefore, I've got the Eagles in 17th spot. In 16th spot, I've got North Melbourne finishing 16th. I feel like they could win like 6 to 8 games this season, which is basically what West Coast did last season to finish 16th. And I feel like that's what we're going to see from North Melbourne. If they can rectify, the amount of close games that they lost last season and, turn that around and actually win the close games this season, who knows, they could finish mid-table. But yeah, for me, I feel like they're going to finish 16th. I wouldn't be shocked if they did finish mid-table. They had a few good games last season. They just need to play 4 quarters. There was a lot of games where they played 3 quarters, missed out on 1, lost the game, or only played 1 quarter and missed out on 3 and lost the game. If they can play 4 quarter games week in, week out, they could be a surprise this season. But I just can't see them finishing higher than 16th at the moment. In 15th, I've got St Kilda, a very, very, very inconsistent club. You're either going to get a good St Kilda or a really average St Kilda week in, week out. Well, that's what I saw from them last season. But they're also inconsistent in the fact that some seasons they will be decent and finish in the top 8. Some seasons they'll be average or bad and finish like bottom 4 or mid-table. This season, I've got them in the bottom 4, but I wouldn't be shocked if they finished the top 8 or mid-table because they're just that much of an inconsistent club. I mean, if we're going off how they played against Port Adelaide, geez, it could be a rough year for the Saints, but I do think they'll be able to finish above North Melbourne, West Coast and Richmond at least. 14th spot, I've got the Melbourne Football Club. I just feel like they're going to have a little bit of a drop off. Yes, they've got some star power in there. Oliver, Petrarca. They've got Pickett in there as well. Fridge in there as well. They've got some very good players. Obviously, Gorn in there as well. But I just don't know. For me, last season, it was all about their mentality, and their mentality just wasn't, that good. And they had some, things in the background that weren't playing that well into their season. Yes, if they got a good culture this year, if they can really play, very good footy, which they can do week in, week out, they can finish in the top 8. They're that good, they can finish in the top 8. But I just feel like their mentality, has it grown? Has it, are they going to have a good mentality this season compared to the mentality they had last season? I'm not too sure. That's why I've got the D's in 14th. I just don't know what their mentality is going to be like going into this season. 13th spot, I've got the Port Adelaide Power, another team that I can see dropping this season. I just don't know. They're on their best day. Yes, they look really good, and they managed to make a prelim last season, but the succession plan, is it going to work out for them? I don't know. I really just don't know. I just feel like I can see them falling off this season a little bit. I feel like the prelim last year, they just really weren't good enough. They were very lucky to make it to the prelim last season. They just held on to beat Hawthorn in that semi-final. And I don't know, that prelim, they just didn't display a good amount of footy. I just feel like they're going to fall off this season. I don't know what it is, but, normally we get teams that finished high last season, or the teams that finished high one season drop off in the next season, and I feel like Port Adelaide are going to be one of those teams. So I've got Port Adelaide finishing in 13th spot. In 12th spot, I've got the Essendon Football Club. Last year I got their ladder position completely correct. I had them finishing 11th, and for some reason I can see them finishing a spot below. They're a very strange team, Essendon. One week they'll play very, exciting, fast-paced, good footy, and then the other week they'll just be very average. So I don't know what sort of Essendon we're going to get this season, but I can just see them finishing mid-table again. They're another team that I wouldn't be shocked if they finished in the top 8. I wouldn't be shocked. They've shown some good signs in the off season to say, okay, maybe they can compete and maybe they can make it into the top 8. But, they're just such an up and down team, the Essendon Footy Club, and therefore I can just see them finishing in mid-table. So I've got them in 12th spot. Next up, I've got the Western Bulldogs in 11th spot. Listen, they've got a few players missing for the first half of the season, which, could see them struggle for the first half of the season. For the second half of the season, yes, they could look good, but they're another team which have been sort of inconsistent. Last year they were inconsistent. They had good results and they had bad results. They had results which they should have, won, but they didn't win. They had games where they should have won but didn't win, is basically what I'm trying to say. They should have been a team like Adelaide in Adelaide, but they didn't. They probably should have beat Hawthorn, but they didn't. They probably should have beat Essendon, but they didn't. If they can fix that, if they can beat teams which they should beat, because they've got the star power to do so, that realistically they could be like a top 4, top 5 team, but it's whether or not they can fix up that inconsistency. I just don't know. So I've got them in 11th spot, not just, but missing out on the top 8. Next up, I've got the Gold Coast Suns. I feel like they're going to play some very decent footy this year. Will it be enough to get them into the top 8? I just don't think so. I feel like they're going to play very well at home like they did last season, and obviously they've got that. They've got those games in the Northern Territory as well, which, they seem to just never lose up there. I don't know what it is. So you can bank a few games in the season But whether or not they can reach top 8, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sold on it just yet. I feel like if they finish 10th or 9th this season, I feel like that's a good stepping stone. Then next season, 2026, they finally push and make it into the top 8. But who knows? That could happen this season. I don't know. I'm not sure. If they can win, a lot of their away games, maybe they make the top 8. If they can fix up their away games, maybe they make it into the top 8, but I'm just not sure. Next up, I've got the Adelaide Crows in 9th spot. I feel like they're going to have a decent jump this year. They played very well in the preseason. They actually beat Brizzy in the preseason. They looked like they were going to lose that game and managed to come back. They've got some new talent in their side. I'm trying to remember that draft pick's name. What's his name? They got Sid Draper, who played very well against Brisbane in the midfield. He actually won a lot of centre clearances and actually helped Adelaide produced the win in that game, produced the comeback win in that game. He looks good. They've got Cumming in their side now. Dawson, he was good. He racked up 24 and 2 goals in that game against Brisbane. If he can have a decent, year in the midfield and, he can go up in the forward line. He can play as a, handy forward line player as well. If he can have a decent season, I can see Adelaide finishing close to the top 8. Whether they can sneak in or not, I'm not too sure. I feel like they're going to have good results, here and there, and then average results here and there as well. Basically, what I'm saying is I feel like they're going to have a bit of a roller coaster of a season and just miss out on the top 8. But, they've got a decent squad. I wouldn't be shocked if they made the top 8. I wouldn't be shocked. Their squad is good enough to make the top 8, but I just feel like they're just gonna miss out on the top 8. All right, now moving on to my top 8. We begin it with the Hawthorn Hawks in 8th spot. What a season they had last season. They finished in 7th spot just out of nowhere. Their second half of their season was phenomenal. They played some really good, exciting footy. Their team communication was bloody brilliant. They were beating teams like, my Pies. They were beating teams like Carlton, the Western Bulldogs. I'm pretty sure they drew against the Giants. They took it up to Port Adelaide in that semi-final. Whether teams, are going to work them out this season and maybe they drop out of the 8, I don't know. I feel like they're still going to make the top 8. I feel like they're going to grow from last season. I feel like Mitchell has a plan that is going to, reassure them that they are going to make the top 8 this season. And I feel like, with the likes of Barras and Battle in their team, really, really holding down that back line and making it tough for opposition forward lines, I feel like the Hawks are going to make the top 8. The Wizard, he's only going to get better. Guinea, he's already good. And if he gets really going this season, who knows? Will Day, he's just a phenomenal footballer. Newcomb, he's getting stronger each season. He's going to be a contested bull again. I can't see Hawthorn missing the top 8 this season. So yeah, I've got Hawthorn in 8th spot, just hanging in the 8 this season. Next up, I've got the Cats in 7th spot. I didn't have them in my 8 last season and they finished 3rd. So I look like I looked like a complete idiot. So this year I've made sure to put them in my top 8 so I don't get bullied. But yeah, I've got them in 7th spot. They picked up Bailey Smith. That's going to be a huge, pickup for them. Bailey Smith, he's a phenomenal footballer. He can play good, forward line footy. He can play good in the midfield. He's a star. And yeah, Geelong, they're probably going to win most of their games at GMS3A. Whether they win all of them or not, I'm not sure. But they're hard to beat at GMS3A. They're hard to beat at the MCG as well. They played the MCG very well. They're pretty much just hard to beat everywhere. Geelong. Chris Scott, or I'm pretty sure it's Chris Scott. Yeah, he's a phenomenal coach for them. And yeah, I can see them dropping out of the top 4, but I can't see them missing the 8. They always just seem to make the 8, so I think they'll make the 8 again this season. Next up, I've got the Freo Dockers. Geez, they are an exciting team to watch when they're on, and I feel like they're going to be on for a lot of this season. They've got a good midfield, they've got a good forward line, their back line is decent. Now they've added Bolton, who can, be very exciting in the forward line and can be very good in the midfield for the Dockers as well. They've got Sarong in there, Brayshaw in there. Tracy, when he's on, he looks unstoppable. If a miss can be very accurate this season, it could be, tough for opposition sides. So yeah, they're looking good. They're looking primed. I just didn't have them in my top 4, but I feel like they will make the top 8 this season. They just missed out last season, but I feel like this season they're going to jump in there and finish 6th spot. Next up, we've got my Pies. Yes, I'm not being completely biased, but I've got them in 5th spot, just missing out on the top 4. I like the pickups that we got in the off season. I like Perryman. I like Houston. Houston off the half-back line means that Chris can, play in the midfield a lot more. We've got a lot of midfield options this season. Yeah, Darcy Cameron, he will look all right in the ruck. Our forward line, I don't know what our forward line is going to be week in, week out. We've got McStay. If he can have a fully fit season, that would be good for us. We've got Mychek. If he can have a fully fit season, that would be good for us as well. Membry, adding in Membry to the side, I feel like that was a good inclusion. I feel like Membry is a decent forward line player. He normally kicks, 1 to 3 goals a game. So if we can have that sort of Membry this season, I will like that a lot. Bobby Hill, he looks like he's, had a good preseason. He kicked 4 in the Indigenous All-Stars. He kicked, I think it was 3 against Richmond. I know it was against Richmond, but, you can only play who you're up against. And Elliott, he's a good forward line player as well. Our midfield, Nick Dacos is in there. DeGoey, when he's not injured. Penderbury, side bottom. You can chuck Sidey in there. McCreary, he'll probably play a lot in the midfield. I'm speaking a lot about Collingwood because I go for them and know a lot about them. But yeah, I've got Collingwood finishing 5th spot. Next up, I've got Brisbane up in 4th spot. I know a lot of teams that win the flag do drop off the next season, but I just can't see that happening with Brisbane. They've got a very, very good squad. Yes, they lost Joe Danaher, and yes, a lot of the forward line pressure is going to go onto a player like Hipwood, but I still feel like Brisbane, they've got the squad to do it. They've got the squad to potentially go back-to-back. Not a lot of their players left, and I don't know why would they. So yeah, they've got a very, very strong squad. Vagan, he's a good coach. He will guide Brisbane into the top 4, in my opinion, this season. Next up, I've got Carlton in 3rd spot. I'm going to leave it for my full predictions video, but yeah, I've got Carlton in the top 4. Yes, they've picked up a few injuries during the off season, but I still feel like they're good enough to play top 4 footy this year and get 2 chances in the final series this year. They played well. Well, they didn't play that well last season, but they had a lot of injuries. They got absolutely bullied by the Lions in the elimination final, yes, but I feel like this season they're just going to take it up a notch and finish in the top 4. I don't want to say too much. I'll leave it for my full predictions video. But yeah, I've got Carlton in the top 4 this season. Next up, I've got the Sydney Swans in 2nd. Yes, I got absolutely pantsed in the grand final, but I feel like that's just going to motivate them more. I feel like it's going to be sort of a Brisbane situation. Brisbane, they lost to my Pies in the 23 grand final, came back the next season, absolutely looked the goods. Yes, they only finished in 5th spot, but, they absolutely battered the Swans in the grand final. I feel like it's going to be that sort of situation for Sydney. They got battered in the grand final, and they're just going to, absolutely go rogue and have a very, very good season of footy this season. So yeah, I've got Sydney finishing 2nd this season, and therefore in 1st spot I've got the GWS Giants. Geez, they've just got a fantastic squad, don't they? They play brilliant footy. They play very good team footy together. Maybe teams will work them out this season. Maybe teams will work out the Orange Tsunami. But when the Giants are in full flight, they are a very hard team to stop. They've got Hogan in the forward line. They've got a terrific midfield. They've got Green in the forward line as well. They've got another Green in the midfield. Geez, they've just got Greens everywhere. Yeah, they're just gonna be looking the goods, I reckon, this season, the Giants, and I can see them finishing in first spot this season. But yeah, those are my full ladder predictions for the 2025 season, done and dusted. Let me know, you know, who you guys think are going to make the top 8, who are going to miss the top 8 in the comments below. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and maybe subscribe if you want to. It's completely up to you. I don't really care. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.